The old Victorian mansion loomed over them, a silhouette against the bruised twilight sky. It had been abandoned for years, ever since the last owner mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Local legends claimed the place was haunted by the ghosts of the former owner and his family, who perished in a fire. Now you know that this story is going to get scary, because usually those who hear these kinds of stories do not listen to them. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be checking out the old Victorian mansion, the home where no one dares to go anymore. Make sure to stay until the end of the video when I show you what they found inside the house. 6 friends, Liam, Maya, Alex, Zoe, Noah and Riley, decided to spend their weekend at the beach house after hearing about it in a local legend. They were looking forward to some fun in the sun, but instead found themselves exploring an abandoned mansion. The dilapidated state of the building was evident from the overgrown vegetation that threatened to engulf it entirely. The paint was peeling from the wooden walls, and the windows were either boarded up or shattered, revealing empty sockets that stared back at them. As they cautiously made their way through the debris-filled rooms, they soon realized that this wasn't going to be a fun weekend after all. The house seemed to be hiding something sinister, something that sent shivers down their spines and made the hair on the back of their necks stand on end. The air grew heavy with dread, and the silence was deafening. It felt like they weren't alone. Just then, Liam noticed a glint of metal beneath a pile of tattered fabric in the corner of the room. As he brushed away the dust, he gasped. It was a key, an ornate silver key that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale or maybe a horror movie. Curiosity piqued. Liam slipped the key into his pocket and they continued their exploration. They ventured deeper into the mansion. Each room they explored was more eerie than the last. The stench of decay hung in the air, mingling with the musty odor of old books and decaying wood. Then they came across a locked door, adorned with intricate carvings of mythical creatures that seemed to writhe and twist before their very eyes. The key from earlier fit perfectly into the keyhole, and as the lock clicked open, a musty wind rushed out, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender and a whisper of voices from beyond the grave. The room beyond was a nursery, a place where laughter and joy once echoed. But now, cobwebs hung like shrouds from the ceiling, and the rocking horse in the corner creaked ominously as if inviting them to join the macabre dance of the dead. A porcelain doll lay on the floor, its glassy eyes staring blankly ahead, and a high chair was pulled up beside the fireplace, as if waiting for a child who would never come again. The friends didn't know it then, but they had just stumbled into a trap laid by the unseen forces that lurked within the mansion's walls. As they turned to leave the nursery, the temperature in the room seemed to plummet. The air grew thick, making it difficult to breathe. And suddenly, the rocking horse began moving faster, its rhythmic creaking turning into a sinister cackle. In the distance, they heard the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the hallway, as if someone or something were approaching them. Panicked, the friends ran, fleeing from the nursery and the evil presence that seemed to be hunting them. They didn't stop running until they reached the front door, where they stumbled out into the relative safety of the overgrown garden. As the night wore on, the friends huddled together in the backyard, too terrified to move. They could hear strange noises coming from inside the house, disembodied whispers, the sound of footsteps, and the occasional blood-curdling scream. They waited in silence, listening intently to every creak and moan of the old house, hoping that whatever was inside would eventually grow tired of playing with their fear and disappear. But their hopes were dashed when the front door opened slowly, as if someone or something were pushing it open from the inside. A pale, gaunt figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing an eerie green in the moonlight. The friends screamed and ran, their terror echoing through the night as they fled from the apparition. Determined to put their weekend getaway from hell behind them, they left the beach house and everything in it behind and swore never to return. Back in the city, they tried to piece their lives back together, but the experience at the beach house had shaken them to their core. Weeks went by, and the memory of the ghostly encounter began to fade, but not for Zoe. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, that the malevolent presence from the beach house had followed them home. Her friends tried to be supportive, but they too had begun to forget about the horrors they had witnessed. So they dismissed Zoe's fears as lingering trauma from their weekend in the haunted house. One evening, as Zoe was alone in her apartment, she heard a knock at the door. She froze. She knew that the sound of knocking was not from the outside. She turned slowly and saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner of the room, beckoning to her with an outstretched finger. Panic surged through her veins as she realized that the ghost from the beach house had somehow found her here in her own home. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her friends, sensing her distress, rushed to her aid. They burst through the front door just in time to see the ghostly figure reaching out and touching Zoe. And then it vanished. The friends were stunned. Was Zoe's story finally being believed? Would they be able to help her fight off the ghost that had come for her? Or was she doomed to face the malevolent spirit alone? Days turned into weeks, and still the ghostly figure continued to visit Zoe, each appearance more terrifying than the last. Driven to the brink of madness, she begged her friends for help. Finally, they devised a plan. They would confront the ghost head-on and banish it from following Zoe any further. Armed with candles and holy water, her friends stood vigil in Zoe's apartment, ready to defend her from the encroaching darkness. As the clock struck midnight, the ghost appeared in the doorway, its eyes burning with an eerie green light. But this time, it was met not with fear, but with defiance. The friends stepped forward, their candles held high, and the ghost recoiled slightly, as if burned by the light. With renewed determination, they chased the ghost through the apartment, their voices rising in a chant as they drove it toward the door. The ghost, shrieking in rage and fear, fled into the night, never to return. At least that's what they thought. In the aftermath, Zoe and her friends were exhausted but triumphant. They had won the battle, but the war against the supernatural was never truly over. Still, they felt a sense of relief knowing that for now, Zoe was safe in her home. But little did they know that the ghost was merely biding its time, waiting for its chance to strike back. The peace didn't last long. Just as Zoe began to feel hope that the ghost was gone for good, it returned, stronger and more vengeful than before. With each passing day, the ghost grew bolder, its presence becoming more tangible, its power more intense. Zoe and her friends were trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. Driven to desperation, they turned to an old, grizzled man named Elijah, rumored to be a paranormal investigator. Elijah listened intently to their tale, his eyes twinkling with an otherworldly light. When they finished their story, he nodded slowly. "I think I can help you," he said, his voice raspy with age. Elijah led them through the dusty attic, each step echoing ominously in the silence. Finally, they came to a halt before a small, unassuming trunk tucked away in the corner. "This is it," Elijah said, his voice hushed. "The key to ending the ghost's torment." As they lifted the heavy lid, a musty wind rushed out, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender and a whisper of voices from beyond the grave. Inside lay a stack of yellowed documents and a small silver key. The key fit perfectly into the keyhole, and as the lock clicked open, a musty wind rushed out, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender and a whisper of voices from beyond the grave. The room beyond was a nursery. A rocking horse stood in the corner, creaking gently as if inviting them to join the macabre dance of the dead. The friends had finally found the source of the haunting. They were determined to put an end to it. After confronting the ghost, they learned that it was the spirit of a young girl named Charlotte, and her rocking horse was the object that bound her spirit to the physical plane. With Charlotte's spirit finally laid to rest, the haunting came to an end. The friends left the mansion, forever changed by their encounter with the supernatural.